Welcome to the tutorial video for the Backstitch and Baste Patterns Clever Cracker. I'm just going to talk you through the supplies that you need to make one cracker. You need one of piece A in your exterior fabric, one of piece B in your lining, one of piece E in your exterior fabric, one of piece F in your lining. Then you need 2 of piece J and 2 of piece I. In the pattern it says to cut these in your lining fabric. I'm going to use piece J in my exterior fabric for this project. It's easy for you to see on the video, but you can use your lining fabric or you can use your exterior fabric if you want to. And then your interfacing pieces. So these are pieces C, D, G and H. And you need 4 of each of these pieces. You need 2 in a lightweight or light to medium weight woven fusible interfacing, and then you need 2 in a heavier interfacing. I'm going to use a Decaville light on the video, which is what I recommend for this project. You can use an extra heavy sewing interfacing if you'd like as well, and I am going to sew these pieces as well as fuse them in the video, so you can see how to do that if you are using either type of interfacing. You also need some ribbon for tying off your cracker. You need some ribbon or string to go through your drawstring pouch. And if you want to, you need some Velcro to put inside your cracker. I'm not going to use Velcro on these because that's my preference, but I am going to show you where you will place it as per the pattern if you want to use it. So let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do is take your piece A exterior and you need to pop that down so it's right sides up. You then need to take your piece B in your lining and pop that down so it's wrong sides together. So your piece B is going down, wrong side down. So your A and your B are right sides together, and then you need to clip or pin the left side as you look at it. It's really important that you do clip or pin the correct side. So you're going to clip or pin the left side as you look at it. And then you're going to sew this edge using a 3/8 of an inch or a 1 centimetre seam allowance. You're then going to take this piece to your iron and you're going to press this seam flat. And after you've pressed this seam flat, you're going to fold your whole piece wrong sides together in half so that your unsewn short edges match. And then you're going to press it again to put a nice press in the midpoint of your piece. So if you open this piece out, you'll see that that midpoint isn't where your seam line is. That's so that your exterior sits down inside your cracker to give you a nice finish. So make sure that your unsewn short edges are together and that you give that a really nice press to reinforce that fold. If you want to, you can draw a line down that marking if that will help you to see it, because you do need to know where that marking is in order to place your interfacing. You're then going to take your piece C interfacing pieces and you're going to pop them down on the wrong side of your main piece so that they meet on that fold line you just pressed, so not on the seam between your lining and exterior. You want them to meet on that fold line that you just pressed. And then you're going to fuse these in place as per the interfacing manufacturer's instructions so that they meet on that fold line. I like to have a tiny gap, literally 1/16 of an inch in between them, just so that they don't overlap on the fold. and you will have a gap either side of these pieces. That's your seam allowance. So you're going to fuse those in place so they meet on that fold line. Okay, you're then going to take your 2-piece Cs in your heavier weight interfacing. I've already done this one so that you can see. And you're going to pop that down on top of the pieces that you have just fused, exactly on top of the lighter weight interfacing, so that they meet on that fold line, and you're going to fuse these in place. If you're using a sew-in interfacing for your heavier interfacing pieces, then you're still going to pop them down on top. You're going to clip or pin them in place, and then you're going to top stitch them 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters away from each of the long sides. So down this side, this side, this side here, and this side here. And I'm going to do that on these pieces as well, so you can see how the top stitching looks. So I've attached those interfacing pieces. I fused mine down, and I have also top stitched them. So you should be able to see I have got 4 lines of top stitching there that you can see on the other side. If you're using sew-in interfacing, that's how you will attach your interfacing to your pieces. If you're using fusible, then you can top stitch as well if you want to, for a little bit of extra security. When our cracker is complete, it will sit like this. So we're now on step 7 of the pattern. Along each of the unsewn short edges of your piece, you need to mark a line that is 0.75 inches. So that's 0.75 inches or 2 centimeters in from the edge on each of the unsewn short sides. And then you need to fold your short ends into this line and give them a good press. So one on that end and one on that end. And when you fold your ends in, they need to be wrong sides together. You then need to take your piece Ds, that's your outside cracker tail interfacing, and we're going to fuse these pieces down in the same way that we fused the middle pieces. So you're going to put your lightweight interfacing on first, and you want to pop those pieces down so that the long edge sits on the fold line that you just pressed, not the line you drew. So the fold line that you just pressed. So that one is going to be fused on there, and then this one is going to be fused on the other end of the cracker on there. And then just like we did in the middle, you're going to take your heavier weight interfacing. If you're using fusible, you're going to fuse it down exactly on top of the piece, the lightweight piece that you have got down there, and then one on the other end as well. And if you're using sew-in, then you need to pop that down, pop a little clip on the end to hold it in place, or some pins if you would rather, and then you're going to top stitch it on the long edge that's closest to the middle of the cracker only, because we're going to top stitch this one later, just like you did with your middle pieces, 1/8 of an inch, 3 millimeters away from the edge of the interfacing. So for this piece, that will be down there, and then for this piece, that will be down there. And again, I'm going to do that on this one, so you will be able to see how it looks. Okay, so I have attached those pieces. You can see what I've top stitched this one along this edge here, and this one along this edge here. So we are now on step 12 of the pattern. This is where you can attach your Velcro if you want to use it. So you need to turn your piece over so it's right sides up. Take 1/2 of your Velcro, and the measurements for this are in the pattern, but you need to measure away from the seam line between your lining and your exterior. Pop your Velcro down as per the measurements in the pattern, clip or pin that in place, and then you're going to sew all around the edge of your Velcro as close to the edge as you can. So for this one, this is the outer cracker. Your Velcro is going to be attached on the lining piece, and that's step 12 of the pattern. I'm not going to pop Velcro in this one because that's just my preference. So now we're ready for the final construction of our exterior cracker. So you're going to fold your cracker piece right sides together so that the long edges meet. Match the seam line in the middle first to make sure that you get your cracker nice and even, and then continue to clip or pin your cracker along that long edge. When you get to the end, make sure that the fold that you pressed earlier sits open. So again, you can match that on the end and clip or pin, and then the same on the other end of your cracker piece. And then you're going to sew this long edge with a 3/8 of an inch, 1 centimetre seam allowance, making sure that your folds are open. So now you should have a piece that's right sides together. That looks a little bit like a tube. You now need to take this piece to your iron, and you're going to press this seam that you've just sewn back on itself. But you need to do this without kind of crushing your tube. So if you pop your piece down on your ironing board or ironing mat, you're going to fold 1/2 of the seam back on itself like so, and then you're going to press that, taking care not to press the other side of your piece. And then do that all along your cracker. This is really important because it helps the back seam of your cracker to sit nice and flat. And then you're going to turn your piece over and then do the exact same on the other side. So again, folding that seam allowance back on itself, just to help that to sit nice and flat. You then need to fold down the ends of your cracker on the fold line that you pressed before. Remember, if you've got sewing interfacing, this isn't attached here, so you might need to put some extra clips on that. And you're going to pop it down so that your seam lies flat. And then pop a clip to hold that in place. And then I like to add a second clip on the opposite side as well, just to hold that down while we turn our cracker. And then do the same on the other side. And then you need to turn your cracker out the right way. This can be quite tricky. You're going to turn your exterior over your lining. So you need to start with your exterior end. If you fold the tail interfacing piece completely back on itself first, that should help. And then very, very carefully, you're going to ease the rest of the cracker through. When you get to the interfacing in the middle of your cracker, this is where it gets a little bit trickier to turn. But just do it very, very carefully and slowly, edging it through a little bit at a time until you pull the whole of that piece through. When I get to this stage, I like to tuck my lining end in and just move my clips across just to hold that in place nice and evenly whilst I do the last bit of the turning. I find that helps kind of keep it secure. And then you can pull through the rest of the top end. So remember, when you turn this cracker, the midpoint of your cracker isn't where your exterior joins your lining. It's where we put that fold in earlier. So your exterior just sits down slightly inside your cracker. And there we go. Check that you haven't got any wrinkles, and then check that your seams line up. And re-clip this edge. I like to have my lining sitting just a fraction inside my exterior, just so that you don't see the lining from the outside. And pop some clips all around there. And then we are going to top stitch this cracker by sewing this edge with a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance. Because we are sewing in the round, we're going to need to sew from the lining side, so just be careful because your bobbin thread will show on the exterior of your cracker as it has done up here. So just take care to make sure you're using the right colour, and we're going to sew all around that edge to top stitch our cracker together. And there we go, your exterior cracker is complete. So all that's left to do now is take a piece of ribbon and tie your ribbon around your cracker in the section between your two interfacing pieces. It should come together really nicely because we haven't got any interfacing on that piece. And then tie your ribbon however you wish. There we go, your cracker exterior is complete, and you can pop that to one side for now while we work on the inside cracker. So we're now going to construct our inside cracker. We're now on step 20 of the pattern. We're going to make the little drawstring pouch attachment first. That just sits inside the cracker. So if you're not going to add that to your cracker, you can obviously skip this part of the video. So for that, we need our pieces I and pieces J. So we're going to take our piece I's, that's our smaller pieces, and we're going to pop them down wrong sides up. We're then going to draw a line 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimeters in from each of the short edges on both these pieces. So that's going to be 4 lines in total, 2 on each piece. And then we're going to take these pieces to our iron, and we're going to fold all 4 of those short ends into that line and give them a really good press. So you can see where I've pressed those edges into that line. We're then going to clip or pin those in place. And then we're going to sew all 4 of those edges 1/8 of an inch, 3mm from the short ends, using our sewing machine, just to top stitch those and hold those in place. Okay, we're then going to take both of these pieces and we're going to fold them wrong sides together and match the long edges. And again, we're going to clip those in place. And we're going to baste stitch those pieces together along that clipped long edge using a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance. So we're going to pop these pieces to one side for now and take our 2 piece J's. So this is step 23 of the pattern. We're going to pop one of these down right sides up, and we're going to mark or notch the center of the top edge on this piece. So you can see that just there. We're going to pop our 2 channels that we've made in the previous step down on top of this piece so that they meet at that center point. And then we're going to clip or pin them in place. So you will see there is a gap either side of them. That is correct. So we're going to pop them down so that they meet on that midpoint. And then we're going to baste along this edge using a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance to hold them in place. We're then going to take our second piece J and pop that down right sides down on top of the piece that you have just sewn, matching the long edge at the top, and we're going to clip that long edge. It's the same long edge that we basted in the previous step. So your 2 piece J's are right sides together with your inner pouch channels sandwiched between them, and we're also going to clip the side seams. And we're going to sew all around this piece using a 3/8 of an inch 1cm seam allowance. We're going to sew both the sides and along the edge that we clipped. We're not going to sew the bottom edge because we need to turn through that in a moment. So we're going to do both sides and the top edge using a 3/8 of an inch, 1cm seam allowance. Okay, so I've sewn those edges. I'm then just going to clip my side corners just so that they turn nice and easily. And then I'm going to turn this whole piece out the right way. So as you do that, it should reveal your 2 drawstring channels. You can use a pokey tool or such like to poke out your corners to get a nice neat corner. And then you need to clip this piece together to hold it nice and straight. And then you're going to top stitch using a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance around all 4 edges of your piece J to give that a really nice finish. And there we go, your drawstring pouch is complete. We're just going to mark or notch the center of the bottom. And then we can pop that to one side, and we are going to start to construct our inner cracker. So we are going to construct your inner cracker the exact same way that we constructed the outer cracker. So this is step 28 of the pattern. You're going to pop your piece E, your inner cracker exterior, down right sides up. If you're doing your drawstring pouch, you need to mark or notch the center of the right hand edge, so this edge here, and then you're going to pop your drawstring pouch down on top of that edge, matching your center notches, so it will be shorter than your piece E exterior, that's correct. And you're going to clip that in place, and then you're going to baste stitch along that clipped edge using a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance. We're now going to construct the inner cracker the exact same way we constructed the outer cracker. So you're going to take your lining piece, that's your piece F, and pop it down, right sides down, on top of the piece that you have just sewn. This time though, you're going to match the left hand edge, not the right hand edge. So if you've done your drawstring pouch, that's the edge that you've got your drawstring pouch basted on. You're going to pop that piece down on top, and then you're going to clip or pin that edge. So your exterior and lining are right sides together with your drawstring pouch sandwiched in between them, and you're going to sew that edge with a 3/8 of an inch 1cm seam allowance. Just like you did with your outer cracker, we're then going to take this to our iron. We're going to press this seam open. And then we're going to fold the whole piece so it's wrong sides together, taking care because we've obviously got that drawstring pouch in there as well. Matching the two unsewn short ends, and give that a really good press to reinforce that fold that's in the middle of our piece. We're now going to interface this the exact same way that we interfaced the outer cracker. So you're going to take your piece G's. Your lightweight woven pieces are going to go down first, meeting at that centre line that we just pressed. And you're going to fuse those in place. And then you're going to pop your heavier weight interfacing down on top, and either fuse that in place if you are using fusible, or sew that the exact same way we did with the outer cracker. Sew down all 4 of the long edges using a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance. Okay, so just like on our exterior piece, you can see I have sewn those in 4 places. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So now we're going to take our ruler, and again exactly the same as we did on the exterior piece, we're going to mark 0.75 inches or 2 centimeters in from each end of our cracker piece. Take this to our iron, and we're going to fold those short ends into that line and give them a really good press. And then we're going to interface these again exactly the same way that we did on the outside cracker. So we're going to pop our lightweight interfacing down first, so the long edge matches the fold, not the line we drew, so the fold line. And then we're going to pop our heavier weight interfacing on top of that, either fuse that in place or top stitch it on the side closest to the middle of the cracker, so that edge for that piece, and that edge for that piece using a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance. Okay, so I have fused those down and I've top stitched them along those edges that are closest to the center of my cracker. So we are now on step 39 of the pattern. So again, this is where if you want to add your Velcro, you need to take the other piece of your Velcro, turn your piece so it's right sides up, and then again, following the measurements that can be found in the pattern, you need to attach your Velcro. This time it goes on the exterior piece, and again, clip or pin it in place and sew round the entire piece of Velcro. So now we're on to the final construction steps of our inner cracker. So you're going to fold your cracker piece right sides together, just like we did with the exterior cracker. Match those seams in the middle and clip all along that long edge. When you get to your ends, again, you need to make sure that your folds are sitting open. And then you're going to sew along that long clipped edge using a 3/8 of an inch 1 centimetre seam allowance. Take care not to sew through your drawstring pouch. If you've used it, it should sit outside of your seam allowance, but just take extra care when sewing past that you don't catch it in your seam line. So just like we did with our first cracker half, we're going to take this to our iron and we're going to press that seam nice and flat by folding it back on itself, taking care not to press the rest of your tube as you do so. We're then going to refold the folds on the end, making sure that that seam is sitting nice and flat. And then just like we did with our first cracker half, we're going to turn this the right way out by turning the exterior piece over the lining. So we're going to do the end interfacing piece first, pull it down as far as you can across that uninterfaced piece, and then very, very carefully pull the rest through. And again, when I get down this far, I like to tuck my end piece in and just clip my bottom edges together just to hold that in place for me as I turn the last bit through. And again, remembering that when you get to the middle, you have got that little drawstring pouch in there, and the end of your cracker sits where your interfacing pieces meet. It doesn't sit where your lining and exterior meet. So you should find that that little drawstring pouch just sits down inside your inner cracker. Go back to the end of your cracker, make sure that your seam lines are matched, and then re-clip around that bottom edge, clipping your two lining and exterior ends together. Check that your cracker isn't twisted, and then you're going to take this to your sewing machine and top stitch around this end just like we did with the outer cracker, using a 1/8 of an inch 3mm seam allowance. And there we go. Your inner cracker is complete. Just like you did with the outer cracker, you can take some ribbon and tie that ribbon however you wish around that uninterfaced section between your tail and your main body of your cracker. It's a bit long. And then we just need to add some string to our drawstring pouch. So you should be able to pull those pieces out of the inner cracker. You then need to cut yourself 2 pieces of your ribbon or string that you are going to use in your drawstring. You can use a safety pin or you can use a needle. And your first piece of string is going to go in one side of your drawstring pouch and out the other. When you get to the other end, you might have to wiggle it about a little bit because you have got your seam in there, just to make sure that it comes through between your seam. And then you're going to go back through the other side so that your 2 ends will finish on the same side. Like so. So it's gone in one side all the way around and out the same side, and then you're just going to tie those 2 pieces together. And then you can trim them down if you need to. And then with your second piece of string, you're going to do the exact same thing, but this time you're going to go the other way. So starting the opposite side, you're going to go through your first side, and then back through the second side so that your ends meet on the same side. Again, tie those ends off. And you can trim them down if you wish. And then you should find that if you hold either side and give it a pull, it will close that drawstring, and you can tuck that down inside your cracker, and that will keep your treats nice and safe. So if you've used Velcro for these, you will see the Velcro as you look down inside your exterior cracker. It will be about here. And you will see it on the outside of your lining cracker. So the only thing left to do is to pop your inner cracker inside your exterior cracker, and it should fit pretty much perfectly. Check that your seams at the back are lined up and push it in as far as you wish, or until your Velcro meets, like so. Your clever cracker is complete.